thank you for rejoining us. And we've been talking to Kim about some very interesting subject matter on, I guess, spirituality and personal growth and your journey. We mentioned in the beginning of the program about the 5 dimensions.
Yes.
Could you now start taking us through those, and then we'll start looking at the 12 spiritual laws?
Certainly. As I said earlier, the physical dimension is the most obvious one, but from my perspective, it's also the smallest of the dimensions. Next to the physical dimension, we have the etheric dimension, or the energy field dimension. We have an etheric blueprint, so if your leg gets chopped off, energetically it's as though you still have a leg, and in fact it can still itch, and that's the etheric body. It comprises the aura and the chakras and the meridians that join it all together, and most energy healers work on that level of your being to affect change in your mind or in your body. The next level of who we are, we have an astral body. And the astral body is everything that happens inside your head. So it's thoughts, beliefs, expectations, memories, observations, all of those sorts of things. We have a rich array of potential things to think. And what we think has a huge bearing on what happens to us. And we did mention before the secret and the spiritual law that it's based on, attraction. And there's a lot of work being done in that area. The whole mind power industry is based on how do you change the astral level of who you are, how do you work with your mind so as to affect a better life. So that's the third one. The next one is the level of the soul itself. To me, every person has a soul, part of which incarnates, and the astral, etheric and physical bodies kind of hang off the soul, like you'd have a hand and fingers that hang off an arm.
Okay.
So they're part of it, but you can identify them separately as well.
Okay.
When we leave our bodies, we return, I believe, to that dimension of the soul, and from there we reincarnate again and again and again, so that we can perfect our understanding of who we are and and truly become divinely realised. I think this is the work of more than one life. Also, a lot's happened to me on my journey to take me from a position of not believing in past lives to thinking that it makes more sense and is more probable than not that such things exist. And I've seen many profound healings when people are taken into another lifetime. Problem is solved, they come back into this life, it's solved in this life as well. So that's been a really amazing journey. But anyway, so the soul dimension is massive and important, but even at that level of the soul, of our higher self, there's still your soul and my soul, and everybody else has a soul. So even at that level, we haven't yet reached unity. But yet all the great teachings say that inside every one of us there is this thing that all humans are one. And so beyond even the level of the soul is the level of the divine. The divine, I call it void, because I think that it's the dimension from which everything else comes. So I don't think there is anything in the divine void, and I've had experiences of that void in meditation, where all there is bliss and ecstasy, and then it just gets better, you know, and you just feel like you're one with everything. And it's a truly awesome experience. But anyway, so that's how I see it. And I think that whenever we ask for anything, gee, I'd like someone to give me a trip to England, you know, immediately I think our divine parents are sending that trip to England into our life immediately. But I think that what happens is that between the divine void and the physical, which is down the bottom of the big V.
Yep, so that's the bottom, the bottom triangle.
Yes. It's got to go through the soul dimension, the astral dimension and the etheric dimension before it gets to us. In the soul dimension, there's a whole heap of laws that we have to look at. In the astral dimension, we've got to have thought forms or beliefs that would allow it. And for instance, if you have a belief that no one would ever give you a trip to England, then as that trip is poured into your being by the divine, it hits that belief and bounces back out again.
So which part of the V does it hit?
The astral part. So that's where our thoughts are.
Yeah.
And beliefs too. And often our beliefs aren't really conscious a lot of the time. We don't even know we have a belief until later, and then we realise, oh yes, well I did believe, that is what I do believe. And we could talk endlessly about what happens there, but I know we don't have time to do that. So anyway, just assume that you have a set of beliefs that are congruent with being given such a wonderful gift.
Mm-hmm.
That gift represents a certain amount of energy, quite a lot of energy. Your chakra system has to be big enough to be able to fit that much energy into you. And so if the chakras are weak or underdeveloped, particularly in this case because we're manifesting something physical, if the base chakra is weak or underdeveloped, you can't actually get that much energy through your etheric body to extrude into the physical world. And so the only way you'd be able to get that trip is to do it the conventional way of work really hard, save up the money, go and buy a ticket.
Yeah.
All of which is a physical process of hard work. Where I talk about natural manifesting, as opposed to what I regard really now as unnatural manifesting of the Western model of work really hard, get your goals and then make it happen, because that's exhausting, and usually a lot of other things fall by the wayside, such as relationships or your health or your fitness or whatever. Natural manifesting, which is what the new book's about, is about how it is that you can sort of line up your ducks through all these different dimensions. And
Line up your ducks.
Line up your ducks.
I like that.
Yeah. So that in the soul dimension, for instance, you can look at the karma. Have I given enough to receive that much? In the astral field, are my thoughts and beliefs congruent with being given that? And then in the energy field, are my chakras big enough?
To hold it.
To hold it. And so really, although it sounds a bit complex, there's really those three questions: the giving, the thought forms, and the energy field. I'd say they're the big three. And if we can actually work with those, then you find that you become magnetic to the most extraordinary abundance. And really all you got to do is think about it. You don't even need to put much thought into it. Just thinking, gee, wouldn't it be nice if, seems to be enough to bring it to you, subject to the 12 spiritual laws that I was talking about earlier.
Which I want you to talk about. But firstly, when's your book going to be published, the next one? When's it going to be
I don't know.
Hang on, which one of those things?
Yes, I know. I thought I'd just about finished it, and then I had a chat with a friend who said, you know, Kim, I think you just need to tweak it a bit more in this area. And I thought, you're right, I do.
Okay.
So it could be another 6 months before it's out. But I feel that it's going to be a revolutionary book, because it's sort of like What the Bleep, you know What the Bleep?
Yes.
Talks about the divine void, or the quantum field from which everything comes. The Secret's talking about the astral field. Deepak Chopra has written about the laws of the soul. But they haven't really, all these things need to be put together in one package so that people can say, well, that relates to that, relates to that, relates to that. Ah, bingo, I've just got it. See what I'm saying? And so what I'm trying to do is make it simple. And I guess that's where I'm, it's taken me quite a long time to write this book, whereas the other books were written very quickly, because I know that it's a new area of work, and I think it's going to change the way a lot of people see themselves and their relationship to the world.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, our knowledge is just accelerating now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're just about to take a break and come back for the last part of our conversation with Kim, and I'm going to do a little plug here, because the show next week, after your one this week, is actually with Dr. Joe Dispenza from What the Bleep.
Fabulous.
So it's accelerating at the rate of knots.
I'll say.
Come back for the last part of our conversation with Kim.